David and Lily were deceived by Victoria for 7 years. She pretended to be poor, claiming she owed a few $1,000,000. David was working 3 jobs, and Lily was collecting cans and bottles after school. As a result, Lily was bitten by a dog. Victoria, annoyed by the expense, even punished Lily by not letting her eat. When David was stapling Lily's wound with a stapler to save money, he discovered Victoria was spending grooming that costs thousands of dollars at a luxury pet salon for her lover's dog. Later, Victoria abandoned Lily by the roadside, leading to a car accident that left Lily paralyzed. Yet Victoria was at the hospital accompanying his dog. Completely despairing, David took Lily, divorced Victoria, and left. After David rejected her attempts to reconcile, Victoria had a mental breakdown, killed Adrian Clark, referring to him as Victoria's first love or the one that got away, and then committed suicide. While collecting cans and bottles after school, Lily was bitten by a rabid dog. To save money, she endured the pain and returned home, asking David to close the wound with a stapler. David, with red eyes, took her to a local clinic for a quick bandage. Lily was full of self-reproach. "Dad, I'm so sorry. $10 is our food money for a whole day." But when David and Lily turned around, they saw Victoria at the luxury pet salon next door, swiping her card to buy a grooming package for Adrian Clark, referring to him as Victoria's first love or the one that got away's dog. Victoria is so good to Adrian. She comes every week to give little treasure the top-tier grooming. Yes, each session costs thousands of dollars. Victoria certainly doesn't hold back. David and Lily stood frozen, staring at Victoria Hayes in disbelief. She didn't notice them, and turned to get into the car with the dog and Adrian Clark. Lily tugged on David's sleeve. "Didn't Mom say her investments failed and she owed a few $1,000,000? Why would she spend so much on a dog?" David forced himself to calm down and, unwilling to give up, went to the pet salon to verify. But the words of the staff member plunged David and Lily into despair once more. "Are you asking about Victoria? She's a black card holder here. A mere amount costing thousands of dollars is certainly something she can afford. Even the dog Mr. Clark was holding is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars on the market." David left with Lily, a bitter smile on his face, silent the entire way. After arriving home, looking at Lily's crudely bandaged wound, David's tears finally streamed down uncontrollably. Lily also understood that Victoria Hayes was lying, and was utterly confused. "Dad, Mom is so rich. Why would she lie to us? Does she not want us anymore?" Victoria Hayes had never revealed her true financial situation to David. Even after they married, she only ever said she was involved in investments. Not long after their marriage, she explicitly stated that her investments had gone bankrupt and she was in 7-figure debt. For their ordinary family, this was an astronomical sum. Yet David not only didn't abandon her, but he also took on 3 jobs to bear the burden. Lily, too, had been sensible since childhood, helping David collect cans and bottles every day after school to ease his worries. She was mocked and ostracized by her classmates, but she never regretted it. "As long as we save money quickly, Mom can pay off her debt, and then we'll have a good life." But now he knew that Victoria Hayes had actually been pretending to be poor all along. David and his daughter were living even worse than Adrian Clark, referring to him as Victoria's first love or the one that got away's dog. Snapping back to reality, David choked out to Lily, "If that's the case, who do you want to live with from now on, Dad or Mom?" Her eyes dimmed, and her voice trembled with grievance. "Dad, please don't abandon us. I promise it'll be good. I don't want to be separated from you, Dad. Can we give Mom 1 more week?" "I'll convince her." Fearing Lily would be too heartbroken, David reluctantly agreed. Just then, Victoria Hayes pushed the door open and walked in. She saw David and Lily standing in the living room and frowned slightly. "What's wrong? You both look so upset." Lily spoke first. "Mom, I got bitten by a dog today, and it hurt so much." She raised her small hand. But because the wound was so gruesome, Victoria Hayes's first reaction was one of disgust. "How could you be so careless? It probably cost a lot, didn't it? Your dad and I don't earn money easily. Can you stop causing so much trouble? No dinner for you tonight. That'll teach you a lesson." David clenched his fists. "Lily is hurt, and you don't even feel bad for her, yet you're punishing her by denying her food. Do you even care about this family at all?" Victoria Hayes had never seen David so angry. After she processed what was happening, she started to argue back. As they argued fiercely, Lily quickly came over and pulled David. "Dad, it's okay. I'm not that hungry anyway. Mom is right. I did cause trouble, so I'll go back to my room and do my homework now." Perhaps Lily's disappointment was too obvious, as Victoria Hayes's expression softened somewhat. "All right, Lily, how could Mom truly bear to punish you? I had client dinners today and brought back some leftovers. Take them to your room and eat." With that, she pulled a bag of leftovers from her purse. It was Lily's least favorite fish. Watching Lily's small face grow increasingly sad, David snatched the leftovers and threw them directly into the trash can. "Victoria Hayes, that's enough. We can cook for ourselves. We don't need your charity." Seeing this, Victoria Hayes frowned deeply. "David Miller, What's gotten into you today? What did I do to upset you? I specifically brought this back. A single fish costs thousands of dollars. So, according to you, I've misunderstood you. David sneered. Then do you even remember that Lily is allergic to seafood? For 7 whole years, you haven't contributed a single cent to this family. Every time I ask, you say you're going to client dinners, but which one has ever been successful? Lily pursed her lips, and tears streamed down her face like broken pearls, but Victoria Hayes didn't even glance at her. She turned and walked out, her tone dismissive. I knew you were this type of materialistic man, even using Lily's seafood allergy as an excuse. If you despise me so much, then I'll leave. Even at this point, she still thought David was upset because she hadn't given him money. David felt a sharp pain in his chest from anger, and he bent over on the couch, taking a long time to recover. Lily wiped away David's tears. Dad, don't be sad. Mom is just upset. Even though she hadn't yet calmed her own emotions, she still actively tried to make excuses for Victoria Hayes to protect their family. David truly couldn't bear to let such a sensible child suffer in secret any longer, so David ruffled her head, forcing a smile. Dad knows. I'll go make Lily something delicious right now, okay? Lily sighed in relief and nodded emphatically after the meal was ready. She took David's phone and sent Victoria Hayes a voice message. Mom, Dad made spaghetti and meatballs today. Are you coming home to eat? After sending it, Lily nervously held the phone, waiting for Victoria Hayes to reply. But not until they had finished eating did Victoria Hayes coldly reply that she was busy. David sighed and told Lily to go back to her room. Just as he was about to talk to Victoria Hayes, he received a friend request. It was from Adrian Clark. After David accepted, he immediately sent several videos. It turned out Victoria Hayes was feeding his dog, which was why she didn't have time to reply to Lily. Victoria Hayes in the video was gentle and patient, a stark contrast to how she had been with David and Lily that afternoon. David Miller, what if you did seize the opportunity and marry Victoria back then? She still only has eyes for me now. You'll never be able to compete with me, and you're not worthy of competing with me. Right, back then, after Victoria Hayes and David Miller broke up, she suffered from severe depression. She even became suicidal and tried to jump into a river. David had secretly admired her for a long time, and coincidentally passing by, he selflessly saved her, to his surprise, after waking up. Victoria Hayes confessed her feelings to David and said she wanted to marry him. At that time, David wasn't sure if she still had feelings for anyone else, so he initially refused. Don't worry, after going through that ordeal, I understand now. I just want to choose someone who loves me. It was Victoria Hayes' repeated assurances that made David agree to be with her. Later, they married and had been together for 7 whole years. He didn't know when they had reconnected. David didn't reply to Adrian Clark. He just quietly called his lawyer friend. Please help me draft a divorce agreement. His lawyer friend asked David in disbelief. David Miller, have you finally come to your senses? You're not going to be naive when it comes to love and give everything for that woman without getting anything in return? It turned out his friend saw things more clearly than he did. David mumbled a hum. The male voice on the phone was noticeably more cheerful. That's great, David. You don't know how much your best friend Liam, hoped you'd get out of this mess quickly. Don't worry. He'll get you the divorce agreement as fast as possible. Even after sensing his friend's joy, David's mood remained complex. He recalled that before marrying Victoria Hayes, he had his own life. Back then, David was also excellent, shining brightly. In the years he was married to Victoria Hayes, David felt like he had lost himself. David gave up his original job, left his family and friends, and revolved his entire life around Victoria Hayes. He poured all his heart and soul into her, but in the end, it was all for nothing. Just going through the motions, David gave Liam a couple more instructions, then hung up the phone. The first message David saw after putting down his phone was from Adrian Clark. He sent many videos and photos, provoking David. He also boasted to David about how thoughtful Victoria Hayes was. See? Victoria always brushes my dog's fur gently like this and brings me water for a foot bath. There were many more taunting messages like these. David initially wanted to ignore them, but then he remembered that Lily was injured today, yet her mother was lingering with another man. The rage in his heart was unbearable. David then opened the chat box and retorted to Adrian Clark, if she loves you so much, why hasn't she divorced me yet? Letting you be the other man? Or do you just enjoy being a third party interfering in other people's relationships? If you dare send me any more of this nonsense, I'll expose you both on social media. David thought Adrian Clark must be furious. The typing indicator lit up several times, but nothing was sent. Just as he let out a sigh of relief, David heard movement behind him again. He turned his head and saw Lily. She had been standing behind David for an unknown amount of time, but she had clearly heard everything. She already knew David was going to divorce Victoria Hayes. Children don't hide their emotions well, but Lily was incredibly strong. Her small face was pale, but she bravely held back tears, though her voice was choked. Dad, are you really not going to forgive Mom? Seeing her hopeful gaze, David felt a pang of sadness. Children her age didn't yet have the courage to calmly face their parents' separation. David also felt guilty. Even though Lily was young, she had done so much to make this family happy. David knelt down and hugged her. "Don't worry, Dad remembers what I promised you. He'll give her one more week." If after a week she still showed no remorse, David would take Lily and leave, and he would never see her again for the rest of his life. Lily, filled with love, hugged David back just as tightly. After comforting each other, David and Lily went back to their respective rooms to sleep. David rarely didn't have to wait for Victoria Hayes to come home. After all, Victoria Hayes definitely wouldn't be back tonight, unexpectedly, in the middle of the night. There was still a considerable commotion outside the bedroom door. Victoria Hayes had returned, completely drunk. The moment the door opened, she was about to fall. David still steadily caught her. An overpowering sweet scent. David knew it was Adrian Clark's cologne. Instantly, his stomach churned with nausea. While the door was still ajar, he dragged Victoria Hayes directly outside. Then, he quickly closed the door and locked it, all in one swift motion. Victoria Hayes opened her eyes only to find she hadn't entered the room. She started banging on the door frantically, loudly demanding that David make her a hangover soup. Victoria Hayes always had client dinners, so getting drunk was common for her. The old David used to feel bad for her. Every time he saw her drunk and dazed, he felt very uncomfortable. He also always told himself to earn more, help her more, and then she would be relieved. But now, seeing her like this again, David didn't even want to acknowledge her. However, Victoria Hayes was making so much noise that she woke Lily up. Lily tiptoed, not wanting to disturb David. She steadied Victoria Hayes with her small body. "Mom, lean on me. I'll get you a cup of hot water. Dad still needs to rest." Then she softly knocked on David's bedroom door and said to him, "Dad, you should go to bed early. I'll take care of Mom. You don't have to worry." David leaned against the door, sighing resignedly. Although David truly didn't want to cater to Victoria Hayes anymore, he also couldn't bear to burden Lily. She was still young, and lack of sleep might affect her development. Plus, she had school tomorrow. He couldn't let it delay the child. David silently cursed Victoria Hayes in his mind, then angrily opened the door. She was sprawled against the wall, drunk like a puddle of mud, and Lily was still holding her, carefully feeding her water. "Sweetie, go back to your room and sleep. You have school tomorrow, so get to bed early and don't come out again." Hearing this, she reluctantly hugged Victoria Hayes. After Lily went back to her room, David casually threw Victoria Hayes onto the couch. Victoria Hayes, her head hitting the couch, sobered up for a moment. She held the back of her aching head and looked at David, whose face was grim. Victoria Hayes's expression instantly changed. Her tone was sharp. "David Miller, what is the meaning of this? How dare you treat me like this?" David didn't answer her immediately. His face was contorted with fury. His eyes glared at the men's underwear that had slipped off her, and he clenched his fists. "Victoria Hayes, don't you feel disgusted?" Seeing David's impatience, Victoria Hayes was about to question him, but she also saw the ambiguous men's underwear hanging from her leg. Her face changed, and the next second she snatched the underwear and threw it far away to the side. She glanced at David guiltily but still showed no signs of backing down in her tone. "Don't look at me like that. I don't know where that came from." Utterly disgusting. David turned around, too disgusted to deal with her anymore. He went straight back to his room, locked the door, and went back to sleep. The next day, David woke up early as usual, but this time, David only made breakfast for Lily and himself. Victoria Hayes might have felt some guilt, as she didn't start picking faults early in the morning. Instead, she sat quietly to the side, waiting for David and Lily to finish eating. Lily sensed the tension between David and Victoria Hayes. Her eyes darted back and forth, but she didn't dare say much. David also ignored Victoria Hayes's glances, several times indicating she wanted to speak. Not until they had finished eating did David pick up Lily's backpack. Preparing to take her to school, Victoria Hayes called out to David, "David, let me take Lily to school today." David was holding Lily's hand, and he wasn't really at ease entrusting her to Victoria Hayes, but Lily gently shook David's hand. "Dad, can she? Can Mom take me today?" Happiness sparkled in Lily's eyes. "All right," David conceded. Lily happily let go of David's hand and skipped over to Victoria Hayes. She carefully held onto the corner of Victoria Hayes's clothes. Seeing her like this, David felt a pang in his heart. Lily had never been cared for by her mother since she was little. Now, Victoria Hayes was merely dropping her off, and she was this happy. But they were mother and daughter. After Victoria Hayes took Lily to school, David stayed home and began preparing for the divorce. Although he had promised Lily he would give Victoria Hayes a chance, David no longer held any hope. David seriously began to divide his and Victoria Hayes' assets. It was laughable, really. She was so wealthy, yet there was hardly any leftover money to divide from their family's assets. David felt bitter, but he didn't stop working. Besides the asset division, David also sent out several resumes. Since marrying Victoria Hayes, David had been a full-time stay-at-home husband for too long. After the divorce, David didn't want to be confined to this small world anymore. It was time for him to venture out on his own. All of this took only about 2 hours, but just as David finished dividing the assets and sent the information to his lawyer friend, he received a call from an unknown number. "Is this Mr. Miller? Your Lily was in a car accident and is currently in critical condition at the hospital. There are no adults with her." David's head buzzed, and panic instantly spread throughout his entire body. David practically bolted out the door, rushing frantically towards the hospital. On the way to the hospital, David was still calling Victoria Hayes. How could Lily be alone? Where was she? But Victoria Hayes didn't answer. David made 25 calls, but not a single one went through. It wasn't until David stood in the hospital corridor he saw Lily's operating room with the critical condition light flashing. In that instant, David's heart was twisted with pain, and his eyes filled with tears. David's legs trembled, his hands clasped tightly, pressed against his forehead. He waited and prayed anxiously. Half an hour later, the doctor finally finished the surgery and came out. The doctor's expression was also very grim. "You're the patient's guardian, aren't you? How do you take care of a child? If she had been brought in any later, the child wouldn't have made it. Fortunately, she's stable now. However, the child has spinal nerve damage, and her left leg is paralyzed." David felt as if he'd been struck by lightning, and he stumbled into a chair, his body unsteady. At that moment, his tears burst forth like a broken dam. The doctor frowned, sighed, and left. David wanted to call Victoria Hayes again to confront her, but he received a message from Adrian Clark first. It was Victoria Hayes accompanying Adrian Clark's dog to the hospital. Looking at her accompanying picture, it was actually taken on the ground floor of this very hospital. His provocative messages kept coming one after another. "You still think you can use your child to tie Victoria down? Is that even possible? When will you finally understand? You and your child combined are not as important as my dog." In Victoria's eyes, seeing his taunting words, David could no longer endure it and rushed to the ground floor. He happened to see Victoria Hayes intimately embracing Adrian Clark. Adrian Clark was holding his dog, but the dog looked perfectly fine. Victoria Hayes' voice rang out at that moment. "All right, don't worry, just take him for a few more checkups, and he'll be fine." Adrian Clark, acting coy, leaned into Victoria Hayes' embrace and pouted. "Well, if he ends up being fine, then he'll have just bothered you for nothing, Victoria. Will you blame me, Victoria? You seem so busy today." Victoria Hayes kissed his forehead. "What could be more important than you?" Hearing this, David could no longer maintain his composure. David lunged forward and shoved Adrian Clark away. He furiously grabbed Victoria Hayes by the neck, but that wasn't enough. Rage consumed David's mind. David bit Victoria Hayes fiercely, and his hands were about to scratch her face. Adrian Clark, frightened by David's aggression, stood by screaming. Victoria Hayes didn't initially realize it was David. Only when Adrian Clark started screaming did she react. She then grabbed David's hair, pulling and pushing until she managed to get him off. She slapped David across the face. "David Miller, what the hell is wrong with you? You're acting like a thug now." Seeing this, Adrian Clark's eyes reddened. Still holding the dog in his arms, he stood in front of Victoria Hayes like a delicate flower, trying to protect her. His voice was choked and filled with grievance. "Brother, are you so upset that Victoria is here with me? I was wrong. Please don't hit Victoria, okay?" David's anger flared, seeing Adrian Clark's feigned innocence, a manipulative act. He slapped him directly across the face. He pointed at Adrian Clark's nose and told him to shut up. Victoria Hayes had never seen David like this in all the time they had known each other. For a moment, she also froze in place after David slapped Adrian Clark away. He grabbed Victoria Hayes by the collar and demanded answers. "You clearly said you were taking Lily to school. Why are you here? Is his dog really that important? Are you even a mother anymore? Lily was in a car accident and almost died, and her left leg is paralyzed, and you're still here, goddammit, looking at a dog." Victoria Hayes froze, listening to David's words, her eyes full of bewilderment. She then pulled David's hand away, straightened her clothes, and her expression returned to one of impatience. How could that be? "David Miller, you're really getting out of hand. Isn't she your Lily? How dare you joke about Lily's health? Are you sick?" David was truly infuriated to the point of laughter. Even at such a critical moment, she still refused to believe him. Her first reaction to hearing Lily was injured wasn't concern, but suspicion towards David. "Victoria Hayes, are you even human? Hearing about our child's condition, and you still think I'm joking with you? You come upstairs with me right now and see for yourself if I'm lying to you." David grabbed her arm again, pulling with such force that Victoria Hayes was dragged along. "When you see Lily, you'd better still have the nerve to say such things," but Adrian Clark wouldn't let David have his way. He desperately pulled David back, looking at Victoria Hayes, his eyes glistening with tears. "Victoria, don't go." Victoria Hayes' gaze softened. But seeing David's hoarse and desperate state, she believed him somewhat. After all, it was her child. What if she just took a look? Even if David was lying, what would be the harm? "Adrian, don't worry. I'll go take a look and be right back, okay?" Adrian Clark glared fiercely at David. He certainly didn't want Victoria Hayes to be taken away by David. David saw him immediately grab the dog's leg and secretly pinch it hard. The puppy immediately let out a pained whimper, wriggling, trying to get off Adrian Clark. He instantly hugged the puppy like a child, and tears immediately streamed down his face. "Victoria, look, the puppy is," just like that. Victoria Hayes' attention was completely drawn away. She forcefully shook off David's hand and frowned, looking at David. "You're always telling lies. I haven't seen any evidence of Lily's injury, so I can't be sure your words are true. But Adrian Clark's puppy definitely has a problem right now, and I can't just ignore it." With that, Victoria Hayes and Adrian Clark left. David watched their affectionate and resolute backs, unable to stop himself from shouting, "Victoria Hayes, get back here! Our child needs you now." But she didn't look back. Instead, she quickened her pace. At that moment, David was completely despairing, tears streaming down his face. David returned to the ward door, utterly dejected. He sniffled, made sure it wasn't obvious he had been crying, then took a deep breath and entered the ward. Lily's anesthesia had worn off, her tender little face was pale, and she was covered in bandages. Seeing David, Lily couldn't help but cry. She trembled as she tried to say something to David. David quickly leaned his ear close to her mouth. She whimpered, "Dad, it hurts so much." David couldn't help but cover his eyes, apologizing repeatedly, saying he shouldn't have let Victoria Hayes take her. "I should have known Victoria Hayes wouldn't take you. She's not that kind-hearted." But Lily shook her head and told David what had happened. Victoria Hayes had indeed held her hand, intending to take her to school. Lily was truly happy, talking to Victoria Hayes the whole way, but Victoria Hayes was constantly on her phone and barely paid any attention to her. She even almost forgot Lily when they got into the car, but to Lily, none of that mattered. As long as she could spend a little more time with Mom, that was happiness for her. Lily was still thinking at that moment that perhaps she could ask Victoria Hayes to take her to her classroom. Everyone would see that she had a very beautiful mom. No one would ever call her an unloved child again, and no one would talk about her mom anymore. Thinking about all this, Lily was truly happy, with a smile on her face. Just then, Victoria Hayes received a phone call. Lily heard a male voice and, thinking it was David, asked, "Is that Dad?" Victoria Hayes frowned and covered Lily's mouth. The male voice on the other end of the line paused noticeably. Then came Adrian Clark's whimpering cries. Lily didn't know what that man had said to her mom. She only knew that after the traffic light, Mom pulled the car over to the side of the road. "Mom, we haven't reached school yet, and it's almost late." Lily anxiously glanced at her small watch. "Get out," Victoria Hayes' cold voice replied. "What?" Lily thought she had misheard. "Get out. Mom needs to pick someone else up. You go to school by yourself today." As she spoke, she had already unlocked the car. "But Mom, today was the first time you ever took me." Lily's eyes were filled with disappointment. Victoria Hayes wouldn't care about such things. She unbuckled Lily's seatbelt herself. "You're as willful as your dad now, not well behaved at all." Hearing Victoria Hayes' voice lose its patience, Lily was utterly heartbroken, completely despairing. She got out of the car and walked slowly, in a moment of inattention. She was hit by a speeding car. As she said this, David, holding Lily's hand, was already sobbing uncontrollably, yet she was still so sensible. She tried hard to wipe away David's tears and comfort him. "It's okay, Mom. I'm fine now, Mom. I agree that you should give up on her. She's not good for our family." David nodded in pain, promising her that he would definitely cure her. After the anesthesia wore off and he had comforted Lily to sleep, David returned home and packed up everything. He then quickly rented a place near the hospital. Just then, his lawyer friend had already sent David the drafted divorce agreement. Without hesitation, David sent it directly to Victoria Hayes. Meanwhile, Victoria Hayes was still with Adrian Clark, enjoying their affectionate time, and had set David's messages to do not disturb. During the days David spent at the hospital with Lily, Adrian Clark was constantly showing off his affection with Victoria Hayes on his social media, but David's heart was completely calm. After Lily let go of Victoria Hayes, she felt much better. David had also been meticulously taking care of her. Soon, Lily would be able to leave the hospital. David pushed her wheelchair, chatting and laughing with her. They had never felt so at ease. Lily asked David, "Dad, when are we leaving? How about we leave today?" David teased her. She giggled, saying, "Yes, yes." and they went home afterwards. David rushed to the school to handle her transfer. The homeroom teacher looked at David, her eyes filled with sympathy. Is Lily doing all right? David smiled and nodded. Much better, you've worked hard with Lily. The homeroom teacher quickly waved her hand, saying it was her duty. She then sped up the process of getting Lily's records ready for David. You've worked hard. Have a safe journey. David sighed, then quickly composed himself and took Lily to the train station. The moment they boarded the train, David and Lily were both very happy. David deleted Victoria Hayes' contact. Lily saw it and hugged David, saying, "Dad, I'll protect you from now on." All right. Meanwhile, Victoria Hayes, still with Adrian Clark, suddenly felt a pang in her heart. As if she had a premonition, Victoria Hayes wondered, after so many days out, why hadn't David sent her a single message? She also recalled how David looked that day at the hospital and thought she should have gone to see Lily then. She hadn't contacted them for so many days after leaving. She herself felt it was a bit much. Adrian Clark was still clinging to her, pestering her for this and that. For some reason, this time she was particularly annoyed. Victoria Hayes pushed Adrian Clark away from her, pulled out her phone, and prepared to send David a message. After much deleting and retyping, she finally sent a message, "I'll be home for dinner tonight," but what instantly replied was a red exclamation mark. Victoria Hayes was completely flustered now. She hadn't expected to be deleted. She immediately picked up her phone and started calling David again, only to find that he had blocked her number too. Adrian Clark leaned on her again. "Victoria, what's wrong? You pushed me so hard just now, it hurt." He wanted to act cute and regain Victoria Hayes' attention. But at this point, Victoria Hayes realized something was wrong. Victoria Hayes shook him off, got into her car, and drove frantically towards home. She opened the door only to see an empty home. There was no trace of David or Lily ever having lived there. The wedding photo displayed on the dining table was even more glaring, because David had already cut it in half. Panic and unease left her bewildered. Finally, she thought of calling the school. Victoria Hayes called Lily's homeroom teacher. "Ms. Jenkins, is Lily at school right now?" "I'm her mom." The homeroom teacher couldn't help but feel confused. Lily already completed her transfer today. Her dad is taking her away from here, and Lily hasn't been to school for a while now. Victoria Hayes' body swayed, and she frantically gripped a chair by the dining table. Seeing the prolonged silence on the other end, the homeroom teacher also remembered what David had said and likely understood what was happening. Lily was usually very obedient in class, proactive, sensible, and had a calm demeanor, so the homeroom teacher had always been very good to her. At this moment, she couldn't help but make a sarcastic remark to Victoria Hayes. "You didn't even know Lily was in a car accident, did you? Are you even a competent mother?" Victoria Hayes' hand dropped weakly. She now realized that what David had said at the time was all true. David's desperate face flashed repeatedly before her eyes. She could barely imagine what Lily had gone through. Victoria Hayes felt a sharp pain in her heart. Her vision went black, and she fainted. David and Lily arrived in a new city, surrounded by the sea that Lily loved. They officially bid farewell to the past and began a new life, and at Lily's new school, she wasn't the subject of much discussion as before. They wouldn't mock Lily for being from a single-parent household, nor would they discriminate against her because of her leg injury. On the contrary, they were often willing to play with Lily. Several times, Lily had Ms. Jenkins call David to say she wouldn't be home for dinner. David was helpless and asked her, "What are you going to play today?" "Playing soccer." Lily was very excited. Hearing this, David felt overwhelmed, but he only told her to be careful. After coming here, David still actively took her for rehabilitation every day. Lily was also strong and optimistic, always saying she felt some sensation. David would just smile, but he never gave up, continuing her treatment. One day, David was still cooking when he heard the sound of hot water spilled on the floor, immediately followed by Lily's joyous voice, Dad, my leg has feeling." David's eyes reddened in disbelief. Father and daughter embraced, crying together. David thought everything was moving in a positive direction. Yet, at such a moment, Victoria Hayes appeared before them again. That day, David was pushing Lily in her wheelchair. Chatting and laughing as they returned home, Victoria Hayes blocked their way. She looked much more haggard than before. Her messy hair made her lose her former imposing presence. Victoria Hayes stepped forward and handed David a bouquet of flowers. "David, long time no see. I've missed you so much." He quickly pulled Lily back, saying to Victoria Hayes irritably, "What are you doing? Lily has a pollen allergy. Didn't you know that?" Hearing this, Victoria Hayes felt helpless. She frantically pulled the flowers back and then quickly threw them into a nearby trash can. She nervously apologized to David over and over again. I'm sorry. I forgot, David. I've missed you so much lately. I truly realize my mistakes. Can you give me another chance?" "Look, I even bought groceries. Let me cook for you tonight." She eagerly handed the groceries to David, but unfortunately, none of them were what David liked to eat. David didn't even glance at them, merely stating coldly, "No need," seeing that appealing to David wasn't working. She then offered the toys she had bought to Lily. "Lily, look, this is the racing toy you wanted most before. Mom bought it for you, and it's the most expensive, best, and newest one." But Lily didn't even glance at her, pushing her wheelchair past Victoria Hayes. "Dad, let's go back home. Let's ignore that woman." The words that woman stung Victoria Hayes. She looked at David as if asking for help, seemingly not understanding why things had turned out this way. David looked at the sensible Lily and the down-and-out Victoria Hayes, feeling only amusement. "You should leave." "Victoria Hayes, we're over. I didn't take any of your property. I only wanted Lily. As you can see, you and I have nothing to do with each other anymore." After speaking, David and Lily ignored her and went straight upstairs, but Victoria Hayes was still stubborn. She refused to leave and kept following us. She even rented a house near our home and moved in. David didn't want to tolerate her harassment, so he called the police and applied for a restraining order. Victoria Hayes was very sad. She tried every possible way to find David again. She brought an agreement and told David she would give him all her money. "I've broken up with Adrian Clark. Can we live a good life together from now on, okay? I'll give you and Lily whatever you want. Lily should have a mother by her side, shouldn't she?" David still refused her. "For the past 7 years, it's been the same whether you were there or not for Lily. She doesn't need you now either, and I'm no longer short on money. I was accepted by a very good company. Enough to let Lily and me live a good life. Please don't disturb me anymore. Take care of yourself." But Victoria Hayes still refused to give up. She couldn't understand why David cared so much about Adrian Clark. David and Adrian Clark had only met a few times. She considered herself reasonable. Although her relationship with Adrian Clark was unclear, she had never caused a scene in front of David. "Nothing really happened between Adrian Clark and me. I know you care a lot. I can swear to God, I haven't touched any man since I married you. Why can't you give me a chance? I truly want to make amends to you and Lily." David found her words ironic. She actually thought her affair with Adrian Clark hadn't reached him. In Victoria Hayes' mind, as long as the husband didn't know, the other man wasn't the other man. David felt speechless. He then unlocked his phone and showed her Adrian Clark's chat history and social media posts. As David expected, all the social media posts Adrian Clark made were visible only to David. "Being with you is really frustrating. Not only do I have to be walked all over by the other man, but I also have to endure your deception of pretending to be poor." Victoria Hayes felt a chill run through her. Seeing what Adrian Clark had sent David, she was even more speechless. She trembled and said, "You knew everything, all along." "Yes. You were willing to spend a fortune on Adrian Clark's dog, but you weren't willing to make our home a little more comfortable. Victoria Hayes, you were truly disgusting." She shook her head, wanting to explain something to David, but David no longer had the desire to listen. He simply closed the door and dismissed her. Victoria Hayes never came to find David again. She deeply regretted it. She regretted losing David and a warm home, so she pushed all the blame onto Adrian Clark. Initially, Victoria Hayes kidnapped Adrian Clark, making him suffer greatly. It wasn't long before Adrian Clark escaped. She still didn't stop. She became increasingly insane. She only wanted Adrian Clark's life. Then, on a stormy night in the noisy downtown area, she floored the accelerator and ran over Adrian Clark, killing him. Adrian Clark died instantly. Victoria Hayes didn't survive either. She didn't even try to escape. Instead, she picked up the knife she had prepared in the car and stabbed herself to death, one stab after another. The incident made quite a stir. David and Lily learned about it through local news reports. Many people came to console them, but David and Lily just smiled with a sense of relief. Soon after, the lawyer Victoria Hayes had arranged delivered her will and testament. She left all her inheritance to David and Lily for the rest of their lives. It would be good days for David and Lily.